6 o'clock, we'll call the November 14th meeting to order. We'll pause for a moment of silent reflection. Do the Pledge of Allegiance. Jacob, you want to lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks. Clerk Treasurer Willie Bowles, will you lead us in a roll call?
Glad to. Jerry Burmeister.
Here.
Brian Williams.
Here.
Steve Denny.
Here.
Corey Hall.
Here.
Marissa Skaggs.
Here. 5 of 5 members present. We have a quorum. Approval of minutes from the October meeting. These are in the Google Drive. Are there any questions, comments, concerns regarding those minutes? Actually, we have minutes from the October 17th meeting and also the October 10th meeting. The October 17th was a special meeting out of cycle. We have minutes for both of those. Any changes, council? Okay, there aren't any questions or changes. We will entertain a motion for approval.
Make a motion for approval.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second for approval of the both October 2024 meeting minutes. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Moving on to the claims. We have claims for September and also a clerk treasurer's report for September. Any questions for Willie regarding those? Willie, anything you'd like to add?
Oh, we spent a lot of money, but we had it, thank goodness.
Positive.
No other comments.
Any questions regarding the claims or the clerk treasurer's report? If there aren't any questions, comments, concerns, I'll entertain a motion for approval of the claims for the month of September.
Make the motion.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second for the approval of the claims for the month of September 2024. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Moving into department reports, we will start with Chief Mark Farr.
Or from Willie. We had a lot of crime and we had cops here to take care of it. For the month, 1,183 dispatch recorded incidents. 48 criminal charges divided among 21 adults.
Thank you.
Two of the major incidents that occurred last month, one was an armed carjacking and a pursuit. I love watching Chatter, how they decipher what's going on. One was, well, if it's just a simple warrant, let them go. Well, this guy had an AK-47 and he carjacked a car at the Love's truck stop and decided to drive away. They actually drove away and then drove back because they dumped stuff out of their car and then gathered up the stuff they dumped and then fled. And officers of Pelton PD assisted with that and they ended up crashing out near Ovid, 600 South in Gilmore or 109, that area. And then the other big thing was we had a residential burglary theft and an auto theft. My victims close by, but a couple guys came from Selma, Indiana, and broke into a local house. We were able to track down the stolen quad runner within minutes. And then just word of the wise, if you're out burglarizing houses, have fuel in your getaway car. So fortunately for us, they ran out of gas, fled on foot. We caught one. That second guy made it into town. He stole a local person's car. And we were able to then recover that car too without incident. So 2 were arrested in that. And Halloween was huge again for Broadway. And I just made a note, the only negative I'm hearing about it is that the rest of the town is feeling slighted. So I did suggest to some people is maybe we need a roving special area each year or something like that, just to incorporate more of the town. But as we grow, it's harder to canvas the whole place. And I think your candy would be overwhelming to even able to walk with. So it's just an idea, but Broadway was packed again. Weather was perfect. And it went without incident. Total crash investigations were 17. And that's it for October.
Any questions for Mark? I thought it was great, that you guys backed into that alley and
Did you like that?
passed out some candy. Yep.
Yeah.
It was wonderful.
And I didn't even know you were 10 feet away.
You didn't hear the Taylor Swift songs? That was,
Well, I didn't
that was
hear
the
you
house I
singing.
was at. No, I'm
I thought that was gonna be a
Yeah.
complaint.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was a great night and thank you for being there and participating in a fun occasion.
It was great.
Well, years before, when the PD was downtown, right down here, we did it out of the PD.
Mhm.
And then we had to find places other than that. Last year, because it snowed and it was bad, I parked under the overhang of the bank here. But then the thought of the alley being blocked, I was like, well, I can block it just as much with the
Mhm.
truck. So we'll probably do that in the future.
Yeah, it was great. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else, Mark?
Thank you,
Nope.
Chief.
Awesome. Next up, Aaron with the park.
Good evening. Not much to add outside of my report. Boo Bash was another tremendous success for us this year. Counted 594 cars in the 3 hours that the event took place, so equates to roughly 2,100 people in attendance, which is the most we've ever had, so we'll look to continue on that success next year. Restrooms in the park outside of the restroom at the playground are now closed for the season. So if you have any questions on that, they don't have any heat, so we don't want to fix broken pipes in the spring.
Yeah.
So any
Well,
questions for me?
Playgrounds stay open all winter.
At the playground, yes. Yep, year round.
Anything for Aaron?
Perfect.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Is Hannah Rose on Zoom?
Yeah, she's painless too. So just thinks on your mic.
Okay.
There we go.
Yep, we can hear you now, Hannah.
Okay, perfect. It wouldn't let me unmute for a second there. So you've got my report in front of you. If you have any questions on that, let me know. Not too much this month. We did have a primary plat approved for Heritage Hub, which is over south of Starbucks and the Three Rivers Bank. It's a 12-acre parcel that they're splitting into 5 commercial lots. It has been zoned commercial since before I got here. So I know the plan for one of those lots at least is a hotel. You've probably seen the signs out there. It's a Marriott Fairfield, if I'm not mistaken. We are close to completing the Blue Star Concrete site plan. It's pretty much good through the town. They're just working on stormwater stuff right now. So that'll probably be zipped up by the end of the year. And then we also have a BP gas station not far from Three Rivers that has submitted, but we're going through a lot of back and forth with them. They have some different ideas they want to use. And then our subdivisions, Baker's Point, groundbreaking has begun. They're working out there all the time. And then we've got Carrot Glen. All homes are now completed within Carrot Glen. They have 3 more that are just going through finals, but they're done. So that's 235 homes in Carrot Glen that are completed. Arabian Point, our small subdivision here in the downtown area, has 3 homes in mechanical to finish. And then they are holding one lot, it's lot 13, 14. And they're holding that one for a while. So that subdivision should be finished by spring, early summer of next year, except for that one lot. Other than that, I don't really have anything. Hunsinger Farms is still Hunsinger farming. It'll be there forever. So I don't really have any other updates other than that.
Any questions for Hannah? Okay, thanks, Hannah.
Thank you.
Yep.
Town manager report is on paper this month.
Technical difficulties. I didn't get it in time upstairs. So Christmas in Pendleton was successful. The chief talked a little bit about that, Halloween being successful. We may have had as many as 15 to 18,000 people for Christmas in Pendleton, which is far more than we had at Fall Festival. And I think we've yet to do the after action, meeting to figure out what we could do better. But I think most of the problem was just it was so successful. It was just beyond the town's capacity to hold it. So Hannah talked a little bit about Baker's Point starting. With that, we've also started with Manning Engineering, the town's design of 600 West, which is the adjacent road to that subdivision. We won't have to seriously do anything with finishing up design until 26. But we do need to start the design now so that we make sure whatever they're doing on the Baker's Point side and what we're doing as far as design on the road, that we're not gonna have this with elevations, right? So it's a 30% design initially, just to make sure that that is in sync. The survey for the pilot roundabout, which is at High and Pendleton Avenue, I've talked a little bit about that, federally funded. You'll see the markings out there so that the surveys can be done. That's gonna be A&F Engineering, and then they're gonna lay that out. And then basically, I think we're gonna do most of the construction. It's a temporary roundabout to see how people like it or get them used to the idea at no cost to the town. And then along Pendleton Avenue, you saw from basically Indiana Avenue to Canterbury on Pendleton Avenue, they moved some lines, put up new poles next to the old ones, except they're gonna be farther back, and that's in anticipation of someday sidewalks and a widening and shoulders on Pendleton Avenue. That line has been at 125% over capacity forever, and during the summer, it's even higher, so that's a line that needs to be built. That is only part of the project. There's a part of it will run also from down Main Street from Pendleton Avenue, basically to Madison Avenue. So that's all I have, unless anybody else has any questions.
Questions for Scott?
What's the timeline on the roundabout in town?
Gosh, you would have to ask me that. It is not in the near vicinity, so.
I know when it is, if that helps.
Yeah, please.
So they'd like to have it installed by, I believe, like July of next year, and then it would be gone by November, if I'm not mistaken. So the feds wanted to put it in and try it for, like, not just a couple of weeks. They want, like, to try to get as much data as they can. Since this is a pilot project, so they're kind of experimenting with these kinds of roundabouts. That's why it's we're not paying any cost for it. So I believe by November, unless the timeline has changed recently, that was the last that we had discussed with them.
Scott, I had a question.
Yes, sir.
Had a couple people contact me today about the letter that the town sent out about the water.
The lead
And they were
lines.
kind of panicking that their water is no good. Could you explain that a little bit for the public?
Yeah, so we sent out several letters. This is a requirement by the federal government and the state government. So every community is doing this. You have to go out and look for lines that are made of lead. This is not just the lines, the mains in the street. This is from the meter, and this is what's different about it. It's from the meter to the house, which is private ground in 99.9% of the case, and the homeowners own that line, but we're required to go and identify it. So short of digging up that line, the first thing you do is you ask the homeowners to self-identify, and in the flyers, it shows how to do that. So far, I think we've only found 16 cases, which is very, very low. And as you know, when we test for lead, there's very, very little amounts of lead in our water. Just because of the age of our lines, our expectation was a little bit higher, but it's turning out that it's not, we're not finding that much. So this is all required.
This is the third call out for
Yeah.
participation
Right.
in the survey,
Right.
correct?
Right. And now we're to the point where people who haven't responded, we've got one guy from the water department that's knocking on doors and just chipping away at getting with people and asking them, I can look at it for you. Or do you need help in trying to identify it? Because the easiest way to do it is go look at where the line comes into your house, in your basement, your crawl space or whatever. So we're more than happy to look. And then as we get that number down to unknowns, or people with lead, if the unknowns, then we have to keep trying to identify it. If they are an unknown or they're identified as lead, there is a required letter. So there was different sets of letters that went out. One if you're identified as lead, one if you're identified as an unknown. So those letters just went out, right? Lick and stamp
Last Friday,
last Friday.
Jacob and I folding in thirds and stuff in envelopes.
Thank you.
Scott, one more simple question for you, I'm sure. The power lines on Pendleton Avenue that IMPA's been putting in the new poles, the old poles, are the telephone company and cable companies gonna take those out?
Yes,
Okay,
at their leisure.
right. How many years you think it'll be?
At their leisure. It's very
Okay,
frustrating.
I know.
They get to it when they want to get to it.
I do like the way our guys took the electric off the top and cut the pole off.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Scott? Okay. Moving on to new business, if you followed along on October 17th, we had a special town council meeting to appoint new legal counsel. With Bose McKinney, due to a non-resolved conflict, we are now having to appoint new legal counsel. And so tonight we have representatives from Dinsmore here. And so in our Google Drive, we have a letter of engagement. We just need a vote to approve that.
Make a motion to approve.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Moving on to resolution 2414, approving the transfer of appropriations between major classifications. As it is the end of the year, we are shoring up our books and appropriating and transferring money around. This just allows Karen the flexibility to be able to move money within departments, basically. Is that correct, Willie?
That is very correct.
Any questions for Willie regarding that? Okay. If there aren't any questions, I'll entertain a motion for approval.
I'll make a motion for approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for approval. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Moving on to resolution 2415. Election to join the 1977 fund. This is some paperwork that we have to submit to INPRS as we make the transition to the first 77 retiree fund for our police department. This is not really the final stop in this process, but we just have to sign this and then submit it to INPRS so that they can proceed. We're still waiting on a few things from them, but they're waiting on us for this one. Is that correct, Mark and Lucas? Okay. Any questions regarding this document? This is showing the officers who are eligible and that will be opting in further down in the document. Anything else you guys want to add regarding this document?
Very appreciative. But second, that's just another step in this long journey.
It's a journey. We're getting there. Yep, absolutely. Any other questions? There aren't any. I'll entertain a motion for approval.
I'll make a motion for approval.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second for approval of resolution 2415, election to join PERF 77 for the police department. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Moving on to 2416, dormant funds. This is, again, at the end of the year. These are a list of dormant funds that we currently have that have had zero activity and are inactive. And so this is going to allow Karen to disperse those funds as necessary. Does it spell out, Willie, where these are going to?
Back to the general fund, I'm sure, but this is a house cleaning Just cleaned up some records, so.
Great. Any questions for Willie regarding this?
And Willie, it's something we normally do each year at the end of the year.
I don't think we did last year, but we tried to double up this year, clean up.
Yeah, these are things that have gone dormant and have been just hanging out that we need to get off of our list, if that makes sense.
And Willie, you said it is going back to the general fund?
I think that's exactly right, yes.
There's some that are utilities that'll have to go back to utilities.
And I'm sure the park will go back to the park too, yeah.
Any other questions?
A fund for a fitness center? At some point?
Apparently.
Huh.
Also, yeah, lots of interesting things there.
Town Hall East, we made the last payment on that, so that's off there.
That's good. Okay, great. If there aren't any other questions or comments, I'll entertain a motion for approval.
Make the motion.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second for approval of resolution 2416 dormant funds. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, motion carried. Moving on to recommendation for bid award, the McCarty Drain, Pendleton Drain Project. Scott, do you want to talk about this for a minute?
So, I'll wait for the document. While I'm waiting for the document to come up, basically, this is for the last phase of the McCarty Drain. It takes us from where we ended at the AMVets. And the last phase will take us boring underneath the railroad. Always a bureaucratic thing dealing with them. And then also to bore underneath 67 and we'll terminate on the east side of 67. And then, so that drain will start to drain. The flooding issue on 67, which is why the state awarded us this project. And then it's large enough to accept any development if it does happen on the east side of 67. And the bid amount was 377, which was under our estimate, so everybody's really happy. I think roughly 150 of it, I think is ours, and the rest is under the grant, or I may have that flip flop, but easily digestible for the stormwater budget next year.
Great. Any questions for Scott regarding the awarding of this to United Bid Construction Services for $377,000? There aren't any questions. I'll entertain a motion for approval.
Make a motion.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second for approval of the bid award. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, motion carried.
So this was a local firm, which is good. They did the first phase of McCarty Drain, so they were used to working with them, and we were pleased with that phase. So, optimistic.
Great. Next on the agenda is the Redevelopment Commission Annual Spending Plan. This isn't a ordinance or a resolution. This is just a presentation of this to us that we just need to accept on behalf of the RDC. Is that correct, Scott?
Yeah, so basically what it is, we look at the TIF revenue, then we subtract out any bonds that are there, and that's about, $329,000, and then, any other costs, left over, like for professional services, and then anything else at the end of that, we'll put it into a category called projects. And like I always say, it's the most flexible money. And so we sort of don't have anything for it specifically, but if we have any projects that run over, we'll go into that. I will also say it's also planning, so projects in planning, there is a lot of hard line items for planning or downtown revitalization plan, the comp plan. And the I-69 plan, we're gonna do some more finite planning on the west side of 69. So those are also incorporated into that project and planning costs.
Any questions for Scott regarding this? This was developed in conjunction with Reedy. Also, they've laid their eyes on this also, so that helps. I think we can just get by with a simple vote, like a single vote on this, because we just have to accept it, correct, Scott?
This is the first time we've had to do it this year, but it's
Right.
new state law.
Yeah.
That this has to be forwarded to, instead of just doing it, accepting it as a budget, here it is in more detail. Accepting it as a budget item, we now have to submit it through Gateway
Yep.
as a special.
Any other questions for Scott? Then I'll entertain a motion for approval.
Make a motion for approval.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second for approval of the redevelopment commission annual spending plan for 2025. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, motion carried unanimously. Last item of new business, ordinance 2434, establishing fund number 2410 for the South Madison Fire Protection Territory grants. The idea with this is creating this account to sequester those funds that we receive from state and federal grants to allow for detailed level tracking of those funds. Willie, anything else you'd like to add to that?
No, not this time.
Any questions regarding this? Corey, anything to add? From the
No,
Fire
I-
Territories
I
perspective?
think maybe the only thing from an advisory board perspective is that the big grant to talk about is the award of a SAFER grant, which is a $2+ million grant, which will provide additional funding for firefighters for approximately 3 years. The why behind that grant and that award is it'll allow accelerated hiring process versus waiting on regular distributions to come. And so just from an awareness lens, I think that's the only one thing that I would add.
Great. If there aren't any other questions, I'll entertain a motion for approval.
Make a motion for approval.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second for approval of ordinance 2434, establishing fund number 2410 for the South Madison Fire Protection Territory grants. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. The only thing I will add on this is that since it's year end and since we anticipate getting more grant funds, if we could entertain a motion for suspension of the rules and a second read on the night it was introduced, I think that would be appreciated by our clerk treasurer's office. Is that correct?
Very much so. I was just getting ready to suggest that.
Okay. So at this point, I'll entertain a motion for approval. As a note, this does have to be unanimous for it to carry. Is there a motion to suspend the rules and entertain for second read on the same night it was introduced?
I'll make a motion. Suspend the rules.
I have a motion to suspend the rules. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to suspend the rules and allow for second read on the night it was introduced for ordinance 2434. All in favor of suspending the rules, say aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. So now the rules have been suspended. I will now entertain a motion for the second read of ordinance 2434, establishing fund number 2410 for the South Madison Fire Protection Territory grant funds.
Make the motion.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second for approval of ordinance 2434, establishing fund number 2410 South Madison Fire Protection Territory grant funds. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. That wraps up new business for tonight. If you're keeping track on the agenda, I know that I skipped the 2025 utility budget. That is not done yet. We will have that for December. We just have to have that submitted by January 1. So moving on to old business, 2430, amending the speed limit. We did first read on this in October. We are now up for second read. The signs are in. Should we vote to approve this tonight? This is regarding the speed limit on County Road 600 West and also in Foster Branch Woods and Foster Branch Ridge neighborhoods, reducing those speed limits through there. The streets are listed along with the speed limits, notably moving 600 West to 35 miles per hour, and then all of those neighborhood streets to 25 miles per hour. That is the slowest we can make the speed limit without doing a traffic study in those neighborhoods. Any questions regarding those? Okay. If there aren't any questions, I'll entertain a motion for approval of second read of ordinance 2430, amending the speed limit.
Make a motion.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second for approval of 2430, amending the speed limit on 600 West and Foster Branch neighborhoods. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Okay, moving on to community partner presentation. Tonight, we have the Salvation Army. Welcome. Thank you so much for coming.
It's surprising. Mine says, oh, you've been invited to Windsor, so really? How many of you volunteered to hand out food or collect food or toys or gifts or anything? Anybody ring bells out there?
Yes.
Yep.
So y'all know. We have a impact paper and I have copies that I can hand out for 2023, but we serve 62,507 nutritious meals and groceries were provided to people in 23. And 9,167 Christmas clothing and toys for kids. This year we anticipate 800 families that will be serving. 1,500 kids will be receiving toys or clothing. That's what we're anticipating. Last year, 1,457 nursing home visits and gifts to seniors. That's a very much needed ministry that we provide. We go out every Christmas and Easter to the homes that will allow us, and we just give a small gift. This year, hoping it's calendars, wall calendars. They haven't arrived yet. We have one women's group meeting at Edgewater Woods, and we were invited. And that happened, that was facilitated because we had 2 members that now reside there. And the lady wanted to know if we could come in, so she could still enjoy those meetings. And those women are having loads of fun. 3,381 worship and faith building experiences and 6,578 tools for schools gifts distributed that we do right before school starts every year. I brought with me my counter kettle. This is my big spill for the night. We put these area businesses, and it's to collect funds for Christmas. And I go out and I collect them pretty regularly. And when they fill up faster than I collect, I get a phone call. So they
That's a
still
good
get
problem.
collected, yes. And we have to be on the ball with that because we had a guy for 3 years in a row that attempted to take our kettles. He actually succeeded at one store because the guy didn't know he was wearing a Salvation Army t-shirt, looked official. Got his picture on camera, but we chose not to press charges, but found out it was also happening 18 months ago. It's probably the same guy. So, yeah, it does happen. And I think there was about $100 in that kettle when we got it. And it was so close to the cord that I didn't think, oh, they'll call me, they didn't call me. So, but I have a brochure about doing the most good, how you can help at Christmas. And we have several programs. We have the Adopt a Family program where you can adopt a family and get food and toys for that entire family. And we have our toy shop, and that's happening on Monday, December 16th, from 9 to 4. And the next day we're in stragglers that miss the day, and we're also gonna have cleanup. But to say that, it has to be set up, and that's at the UAW meeting on Madison Avenue. And that happens on December 15th, from noon until it's set up. So if you want to volunteer for that program, the contact information. But I also beg, if you do any volunteer work for us, that you help us. We have a newer program. It's been going on for years, but trying to get my staff and everybody else on board. If you go to our website, saanderson.org, and you hit I want to be a volunteer, it will take you into our volunteer site so you can register, because there are some volunteer positions that I have to do background checks with. Like, for instance, collecting kettles. We have a couple here in Pendleton that does that, and they went through the process. So, food distribution, that's happening on the 13th from 9 to 1. On the 12th from 9 until it's done, we're packing those. So again, saanderson.org. I went to volunteer, and all the information's in these for sure, so I'll leave. And our bell ringing, we are short on volunteers, we're short on paid bell ringers. We tried to split the shift this year so we wouldn't have to expend so many funds from what we gather in those kettles. And 3 people showed up on the first day. So it didn't work. So now we're working them all overtime because it's 6 days a week from 10 to 7, so. Yeah, you could use your help for that. There's also application intake, we do that mostly on Fridays, and there is a Saturday on the 7th, but we have intake where the clients come in and fill out the forms so they can get the toys and food that they need. And we have Angel Tree, and that's the gifts portion, so anybody that, special businesses that want to put out a box for the Salvation Army, we can get that for you. Again, I don't know what's wrong with systems this year, but we're waiting on the boxes, but we will get you some kind of container if you want to entertain that thought of collecting toys at your business. And again, we appreciate Pendleton. We have 3 counter kill sites so far here. I'd like to get more. And you know, it's an easy way to contribute, so.
I know it's one of the new things they're doing this year. When I was, yesterday, I stopped and checked on a bell ringer, Bernice, and you can swipe your card this year,
Yes.
which I'd never seen before.
It's not at every site, but at our more popular, we do have a thing. We used to have a sticker, and it took you to some kind of website, but this thing, it's how many times you tap it. So it's like 10, 20 or something like that. Mike's in charge of that part of it. Sorry, didn't bring that information.
I think it's a great idea. A lot of people don't carry cash.
Yeah, yeah, and we've
Very
got about
much.
$300. So
Good.
we've only been out there for about 3 days.
Good.
We've
Good.
we've got about that much so far, so, we only tried a couple of the more frequent, heavily trafficked sites, I should say, to see how it does, because some of us, and I won't mention his name, don't have a whole lot of faith in technology, but
Well, we thank you for everything you do for the community.
yeah, and I will leave the pamphlets
Okay.
flyer
Please do.
here. And I'll also leave my card so that if you want to get in touch with me to sponsor a counter kettle or volunteer to ring or anything, but did I mention go to registerring.com if you want to volunteer to bell ring? It's real simple to sign up. Thank you
Awesome.
for having me.
Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for coming. Now we will open it up for public comment.
Hello.
Hi.
All right. Well, I guess everybody knows who I am.
Just for the record, can you say it?
Okay, I'm Elfie. I'm the one that owns the toy store in town, Magication Station. Myself and my family were overjoyed when we finally located the area in which we decided to settle. Settle becoming a reality in April of 2020, when we moved to Pendleton, Indiana. We truly fell in love with the small town feel of this community and do only want to see great prosperity and growth in the area and its residents. As I mull over the topics that I wanted to touch on this afternoon, the town's website motto resonated with me. The town is small, but the thinking is not. I do have to say, over the past 3 years, we continue to come short of that motto. The reason for my previous statement is as follows. In the span of 2 years, we have seen the closure of a multitude of small businesses, Bliss and Banner Boutique, the Bank Restaurant, and the Antique Galleria, to name a few. Allowances of established brands to open locations in the area established brands to open locations in the area, creating competition with our small business in the area. Competition is healthy for any community. However, with the locations of these new established branded businesses, there is no longer a need for customers to drive into town, naturally creating foot traffic, which is essential for continued sustainability in our small businesses. 2 to 3 large-scale events per year in the area do increase foot traffic. However, with the overload of outside vendors, with competing products with local businesses, the revenue spread is greatly reduced due to location of vendors and distances from the local businesses. By the time potential customers make it to the local businesses, they have already reached their financial budget for the day. This does cause a financial strain on local business owners. At times, the revenue made for the day during a large-scale event does not exceed the day's expenditures, such as employee salaries, electrical, water, and sewer. As due to limits in bathroom facilities, usage during these events does spike. With smaller events, I have been able to provide a space for both customers and vendors to easily communicate, get to know each other, and to increase revenue for the businesses in town. One such event of this nature is the Sunday Funday events during the summer. And they've been very popular. We have about an 80 to 90% retention rate on our vendors per event. I do see some growth and effort being made, but they all appear to occur outside the main strip of downtown Pendleton, or they are implemented without the needed resources needed to accomplish the ideas that have been developed or implemented. Thanks to all who have worked diligently on the plans prescribed for the Unified Development Plan. However, here are a few of the shortfalls that I, as a business owner, have seen to date. The 2017 Pendleton Interchange Master Plan proposed the improvements we see today on Main Street and on Pendleton Avenue, which allows for both foot traffic and parking. However, during events, parking spots and quartered or blocked, which creates an unnecessary demotivation for potential customers and inherently impacts local businesses negatively. Ordinances were amended in July of 2024 to include lodging and hotels within the town of Pendleton. However, it appears that these will be located closer to the interstate exit, which will diminish the need for potential customers to visit the downtown retail shops, which will impact the business's ability to translate foot traffic into paying customers. Though I do appreciate the acquisition. I think the hotel will be a beneficial acquisition. Ordinance amended to create a total of 7 designated outdoor refreshment areas and to coincide with the alleyway enhancements, While in theory, these should create foot traffic for downtown businesses, this cannot be fully realized due to shortcomings and issues that we face, such as dilapidated buildings, which are not being addressed in a timely manner to ensure that the beautification of the town can be held to a streamlined standard for all building owners. Delivery truck access. Due to the size and the weight of these delivery trucks, this would result in constant upkeep and enhancements to the alleyways. This includes also garbage trucks. Excuse me.
Fine.
Also, with the traffic on these roads, they would have to reduce or minimize the traffic due to enhanced foot traffic in the alleyways, and also to reduce traffic noise during entertainment times. I don't see that as being something that would be feasible. There is not a platform or space offered to continue collaboration between the local businesses and town officials for the matter of residents of Pendleton. Without an advocate, business owners are left to feel alone and unwelcome. There are several new businesses who have come to the area and have not received any formal welcome from the town officials or the Chamber of Commerce. They have no idea who these officials are. If there are grievances to be made, there is no platform offered for business owners to offer their feedback or suggestions to be active to the active members who contribute to the economy of the town. Aid is, in promotion of shopping locally. Shop Local Saturday is November 30th, 2024. And I have not seen any promotion for either the Pendleton Chamber of Commerce, or the town of Pendleton. Actions like this do not demonstrate to local business owners that their existence in the town matters. In relation to the Pendleton Chamber of Commerce, I am a big believer in action, not words or platitudes. And so for any business owner, they have to see the benefits of being a member of the Pendleton Chamber of Commerce. There is a lack of effort action to motivate business owners to join the Chamber of Commerce. Looking at some of our surrounding areas, their Chamber of Commerces have frequent monthly events to advocate for existing businesses and increase membership, such as state of city town events. This is where town officials can meet with business owners on upcoming developments, get to the temperature beat of how their actions do impact their local business and how they can create a business-friendly environment for the area. Networking mixers. This is where business owners can meet other business owners and learn from their experiences, creating mentorship programs or join forces with the SBA of Indiana to hold classes or conferences locally to educate our small business owners to ensure longevity. This is also an event where we can include the Indiana Main Street organization as well to improve or revitalization of the Main Street in Pendleton, Indiana. The Carmel Chamber of Commerce created what is known as the VIP, Village Incentive Program, to promote Shop Local. This is a card in which the cardholders will enjoy benefits such as exclusive discounts, special offers, and easy participation. So they have this, which actually benefits customers as well. We in Pendleton can create something like this to promote Shop Local and our small businesses. The leadership of the Chamber of Commerce also needs to create a space where local business owners, their members, can provide feedback and be an advocate for them with the town officials. To date, I have not seen any action that supports that this is actually occurring. Again, I can only speak for myself. In closing, as a business owner with the hopes of being active in my community and participating in its success, I have to say that it has been a frustrating and defeatist endeavor. New and existing owners are not welcomed. New ideas or changes are not welcomed. And at times you are met with ridicule and ostracization. Try to say that 3 times fast. Inclusion is only open on the terms of the organizer at the event. How it is perceived is if one is not willing to participate in the manner that is requested, then again, you are ostracized without a conversation of how the requested impacts you and your business personally. Unfortunately, I have been at the receiving end of all of these negative actions, regardless of all the work, effort, time, and money that myself and my wife have put into this town. Let me be very clear. I wholeheartedly love the residents in this community and very much appreciate the support that they have shown to both my family and my business. Business owners, are simply looking for inclusion and an opportunity to voice their opinion on issues that will impact them and their businesses that are located in the town. Despite all of this, I still believe in this town, and in what can accomplish if we all work together. I do hope that the grievances that I have brought to you today will be met with some consideration and open the doors for a conversation to improve the future of our local businesses and our local economy. Thank you for your time.
Thanks for sharing.
I'll give you each a copy.
Sure. Yep, we'll enter it into the record of tonight's meeting.
Thanks. Thank you.
Any other public comment?
My name's Jeremy Young. I came out today because of what you were talking about. This town is past capacity. And you're not doing anything about it. There's more buildings going, more housing developments going up constant. At the end of my street, where the toxic dump used to be, there's a housing community now. I called IDEM because I'm in environmental cleanup. I never saw an IDEM truck down there. IDEM has been a part of every job site I've ever been a part of since 2006. So I called them and asked them, why are you letting this happen? They don't know anything about a landfill being there ever. I said, isn't that illegal? Yes, it is. So they're supposed to be doing an investigation on that right now. Traffic, I can't get out of my neighborhood. I have to go the wrong way. I have to plan accordingly, go the wrong way, turn around, and just to get to 69. From the middle school, drop the kid off in the morning, half hour to get to my house. It's 1.5 miles. And this is every day. All the services where they sweep the road, get the leaves, all that was great until the houses came up at the end of our street. Now they drive past our street, drive right down the street, leaves on both sides, and go down and pump or get their leaves that they just put out the night before. Ours were sitting out there for a month. Do you guys have a number in sight? How much more growing? How many more house developments need to go in?
I mean, it's a situation where we can't really prevent somebody from selling their land or somebody developing it. The best that we can do is use the standards and the plans that our planning commission and that we have passed to steer that growth in the direction that we can as far as density goes. That's kind of our motto of how we approach this. In relation to the neighborhood that you're talking about, I assume on Main and down here, yep, Arabian Point. He did have core samples done, I know of that property, and those houses, as far as I know, have been insured for their value without any concerns from a mortgage company or an insurance company from that perspective. We don't oversee leaf pickup, but Scott could probably talk about leaf pickup if Scott wants to.
So, most people don't realize that for the guys to do one circuit, we only have one leaf pickup machine. So it takes, depending on the weather, it takes them on dry days, it takes them 7 days to do the whole town, 7 business days.
Mhm.
A lot of times, if they know they're having rain come and you see them just drive by, what they're doing is just setting the hose, so it picks up the gutters. So when the rain's coming, it's not gonna, leaves in the gutters or wash or sucked up before they clog up our storm lines. That's sort of a requirement of federal regulation for us to allow us to discharge our stormwater into Fall Creek. So those are the priorities. Leaf pickup is only intended for streets with curbs and storm inlets. So everything else that's done beyond that, which our guys do, is more of a courtesy. So we do it. A lot of it's weather dependent. Every season is different. Some years they can get on top of it. Some years they're just barely able to keep the gutters clean in time for water. So it's against the Constitution to dictate who can and cannot build in the town. It's up to the farmers that want to sell their empty ground, their farm ground for development. So we can't dictate the number. All we can do is set the standards and what type of buildings can go in what areas. That's all we're allowed to do. It's a democracy,
Mhm.
right? Capitalist system. So a lot of people think we build the subdivisions, which is silly.
So
Some towns don't do that. Governments don't do that except for very limited housing programs. So people are frustrated with the growth, but the growth is dictated by the citizens, not the town.
all the citizens that I know that have been here a long time, they like how the town does.
I don't disagree with you. I've been here 60 years.
And you can see all the people selling and moving off.
I know, but
And that's where I'm at.
that's
I'm just
part-
waiting for somebody to give me enough money for that house. I'll just get the hell out.
Well, that's the price of democracy. People get to do what they want to do. They're free enterprise.
So
You know,
what-
towns are only by statute and by constitution allowed to set certain things. And that's through planning and zoning, and those are very limited as to what you can do.
So that neighborhood specifically, I bought this house. I grew up in it, but it was my grandmother's house. I bought it about 20 years ago. There have been several owners that's changed hands lots of times. I've heard, I don't know this for a fact, that people have tried to build stuff on it and been turned down by the town, couldn't build a pole barn or anything out there. And now a whole beautiful subdivision.
We do have, just to answer the question, if somebody wanted to build a standalone pole barn without a primary residence, that would be against our zoning, correct? For any form of,
It all.
it would just depend what would have been zoned at that point.
Mhm.
But currently, we wouldn't have a secondary structure without a primary residence.
I think that's true.
That's correct. And, you know, depending on
There's
what,
voice in the sky.
sorry.
Man, this is funny.
the
It's like scary, but it's Hannah.
So the video's not working, Jacob. I don't know what's going on with it, but I don't know if no one can see anything, but depending on what the zoning was at the time, I mean, unless you can, you know, that person could provide details on exactly what they were asking for that got rejected. I'm sure it's because it didn't fit the code at the time, whatever it was. And there might have been, you know, instances where someone wanted to build a home there, but wasn't willing to do core samples or wasn't willing to have an engineer sign off on how thick that the, you know, foundations need to be, because we have had to take it on that site specifically. We have had to take some special and extra precautions that we wouldn't normally do because of the history of that site. So, you know, all I's have been dotted and T's have been crossed pertaining to if there was anything dangerous in the ground. As far as soil stability, each of those foundations has to have an engineered signature that we required for how deep it had to be, and that was special to this site. The property owner and developer was more than willing to do that. So if, you know, while it was in development, there was all sorts of different varying levels of foundations that were required because it is such an odd site. And also limestone in this area is also super variable. So some are 10 feet deep, some are 8 inches deep. You know, it was really variant, but each one had an engineer's signature. So that site in particular, I think I can speak to. You know, it's changed, but whatever, you know, is happened before, I can't speak to, but I know what's there now is fully approved.
Well, all the I's can be doubted and all that, because IDEM doesn't know anything about it. For that to be legal, they have to do the samples.
Do you have the IC code that you're talking about for IDEM, but what needed to be done, the Indiana code?
I know that no, I don't know the code. I know that every site I've been on, they've taken pictures of me and taken,
What do you do for a living?
environment, like on something like that, they would dig a hole.
Yeah.
I would pump the water out of it, it'd be contaminated water. But IDEM would take pictures of me doing that, and they would be taking samples of the water that I'm taking and the soil as every step of the way. And they said that it is against the law for them not to even know about that there was landfill there.
I don't think it is.
Well, I haven't heard anything else. They told me to start an investigation, but they haven't got back to.
And Hannah obviously can hear us, but Hannah is who would have received that complaint from IDEM. So Hannah, to your knowledge, you haven't received anything from Indiana Department of Environmental Management regarding?
Nope.
Okay,
Nope, I haven't received anything from anyone.
And she told me, she was coming out Friday to take samples. But with that being a private place, you know, there's steps that she'll have to go through. She was going to try it that day. I don't know if she was successful or not,
okay.
but I don't know. But the traffic is horrible. We've got more housing coming. Do we have plans to get, these main roads have never changed in my lifetime. I mean, they're the same.
We have the highest impact fee in the state of Indiana for roads. And that is because our philosophy is developers have to pay for the road improvement as it happened, which is the lesson that Hamilton County, which they would have learned, where they built the roads after the 400 home subdivision goes in, and 3 years later, they're building the road, rebuilding the country road that fed into that. So we're trying to stay ahead, and we're probably the most progressive community as far as making developers pay for the cost of development, the cost of the town, and the current residents would have to absorb. So back to developers. Squawk, but they gotta pay.
So we're getting all this tax money from all the new people.
No, that's not how property tax works.
No, so
No, if you have more residents, all it means is the property tax levy that needs to be raised, just divided among more people.
sure.
You're only allowed to raise your property tax revenue based on a calculation, and that applies statewide. So maybe it's 1 year it's 4%, maybe 1 year it's 2.5%. So even though we have more revenue, even though we have more residents, doesn't mean we're getting more revenue other than what the state allowed us to increase. And so that's why we have this impact fee. We also make developers have an impact fee for the park because we strain on the park. We also make them put in trails. So there's a lot of things we're doing. I wish we didn't have to do it. I'm sort of like you. I grew up here. I'm too excited about it.
Yeah.
But my challenge and the town council's challenge is to make sure that we grow right, whether we like it or not.
Right.
So
I don't like it.
It's hard. I mean, accepting the changes that's a hard thing for all of us that have lived here for our entire lives. But we remain committed to trying to do it in the best way possible and saving downtown and the identity of Pendleton as we do it.
My health has deteriorated pretty bad the last few years. My ability to work, just going to try here soon, I hope. The way things are going, I can't afford to keep the house because the cost of living here just keeps going up all the time. I refinanced that because I was in financial trouble. Either just last year or year before. It has already gone up almost 200,000. Not what anybody's offering me.
The assessed value.
Just the mortgage companies calling to try to refinance or
Yeah.
stuff like that. I mean, if somebody wants to come get me, I'll take it and go.
Yeah, the assessment is handled out of the county, so we are very hands-off in that assessment formula and how they do that. But like Scott said, the maximum amount that we can raise from year to year for the last several years has been 4%. Your levy can't go up more than 4%. We are definitely outpacing that with the number of households that we are adding. So really, the tax revenue that we're seeing is staying pretty static. It's not really going up a whole lot when you consider that you're only allowed to raise it 4%, and we're definitely outpacing our assessed value by 4% every year.
That's all I've got.
Well, thanks for coming.
Thanks
You're
for coming.
welcome
Thank you.
anytime.
Understand.
Any other public comment? Anything from anybody up here?
No.
One item of note, do not forget, tomorrow is the last day to purchase a wreath for Wreaths Across America for the upcoming presentation in December. All of that information is on the town's website, but tomorrow is the last day to purchase a wreath for either someone you know, a friend, a neighbor, or just a Grove Lawn customer. So if there's not any other comment from anybody in the gallery or up here, I will make a motion to adjourn at 7:05.